To become a presidential candidate, a few conditions must be met. The President of Germany must be a German citizen, at least 40 years old, and not be employed by or own any business. He cannot be part of the elected government. The President of Germany is elected in a federal convention. The federal convention consists of the members of the parliament and an equal amount of delegates elected from the different federal states. These delegates can be either politicians, but more often as not they are notable personalities and celebrities. Domestic sewage is the primary source of pathogens and putrescible organic substances. Because pathogens are excreted in feces, all sewage from cities and towns is likely to contain pathogens of some type, potentially presenting a direct threat to public health. Putrescible organic matter presents a different sort of threat to water quality. As organics are decomposed naturally in the sewage by bacteria and other microorganisms, the dissolved oxygen content of the water is depleted. This endangers the quality of lakes and streams, where high levels of oxygen are required for fish and other aquatic organisms to survive. Sewage treatment processes reduce the levels of pathogens and organics in wastewater, but much of the current debates on agricultural biotechnology have focused on the potential risks of GM, genetically modified, crops for human health. Some of the health risks pertinent to unapproved GMFs include antibiotic resistance, allergenicity, nutritional changes and the formation of toxins. To address the possible drawbacks of biotechnology application in engineered foods, we point out some of the problems stemming out from genetic modification. Lightning is not only spectacular, it's dangerous. About 2,000 people are killed worldwide by lightning each year. Hundreds more survive strikes but suffer from a variety of lasting symptoms, including memory loss, dizziness, weakness, numbness, and other life-altering ailments. Strikes can cause cardiac arrest and severe burns, but 9 of every 10 people survive. The average American has about a 1 in 5,000 chance of being struck by lightning during a Over the past decades, agricultural policy and international institutions, as well as private and public agricultural research have often considered small-scale and subsistence farmers as backward phase-out models of a pre-industrial form of production. For more than 50 years, grow or die has been both the capitalist and socialist principle for progress, with just a few exceptions. The widely held belief was that only large economic units were capable of achieving increases in productivity on a competitive basis through modern and rationalized cultivation methods, mainly with chemical inputs and the use of machinery. A global increase in productivity was considered necessary to feed a rapidly growing world.
Capitalists argue that private ownership of properties like land, businesses, goods, and wealth are essential to ensuring the natural right of people to control their own affairs. Capitalists believe that because private sector enterprise uses resources more efficiently than government, society is better off when the free market decides who profits and who does not. In addition, private ownership of property makes it possible for people to borrow and invest money, thus growing the economy. Socialists, on the other hand, believe that property should be owned by everyone. They argue that capitalism's private ownership allows a relatively few wealthy people to acquire most of the property. The resulting income inequality leaves those less well off at the mercy of the rich. Socialists believe that since income inequality hurts the entire society, the government should reduce it through programs that benefit the poor, such as free education and healthcare, and higher taxes on the In today's manufacturing environment, we know that getting the product to the customer in a timely manner while keeping the cost of production and delivery as inexpensive as possible is one of the top goals. In other words, businesses make the most money by giving as much value to the customer while simultaneously incurring the least cost. As with other considerations in life, having too much or too little of something will cost you one way or another. Manufacturers need to be aware of supply chain management, the oversight of raw materials as they move from entry into the plant, into production and then on to the consumer. Manufacturers need to be concerned with the entire process and how it impacts. ITIL defines an incident as an unplanned interruption to or quality reduction of an IT service. The service level agreements define the agreed upon service level between the provider and the customer. Incidents differ from both problems and requests. An incident interrupts normal service. A problem is a condition identified through a series of multiple incidents with the same symptoms. Problem management resolves the root cause of the problem. Incident management restores IT services to normal working levels. Requests for fulfillment are formal requests to provide something. These may include training, account credentials, new hardware, license allocation, and anything else that the IT service desk offers. A request may need approvals before IT fulfills it. Incidents interrupt normal service, such as when a user's computer breaks, when the VPN won't connect, or when the printer jams. These are unplanned events that require help from the service provider. Astrophobia is extreme fear of thunder and lightning. It can affect people of all ages, though it may be more common in children than adults. It's also seen in animals. Many children who have this fear will eventually outgrow it, but others will continue to experience the phobia into adulthood. Astrophobia can also manifest in adults who didn't have it as children. Being caught in a thunderstorm or preparing for extreme weather conditions can create reasonable levels of anxiety or fear. In people with astrophobia, thunderstorms cause an extreme reaction that can be Fingerprint, impression made by the papillary ridges on the ends of the fingers and thumbs. Fingerprints afford an infallible means of personal identification, because the ridge arrangement on every finger of every human being is unique and does not alter with growth or age. Fingerprints serve to reveal an individual's true identity despite personal denial, assumed names, or changes in personal appearance resulting from age, disease, plastic surgery, or accident. The practice of utilizing fingerprints as a means of
Your eye is a slightly asymmetrical globe, about an inch in diameter. The front part just behind the iris and pupil lies the lens, which helps focus light on the back of your eye. Most of the eye is filled with a clear gel called the vitreous. Light projects through your pupil and lens to the back of the eye. The inside lining of the eye is covered by special light-sensing cells that are collectively called the retina. It converts light into electrical impulses. Behind the eye, your optic nerve carries these impulses to the brain. The macula is a small extra-sensitive area in the retina that gives you central vision. Eye color is created by the amount and type of pigment in your iris. Multiple genes inherited from each parent. While it is widely known that demographers analyze populations, they can also draw conclusions about individuals within the population. This is because many of the figures commonly used in demography, such as life expectancy at birth or the fertility rate, can be translated from demographic developments on the level of the population as a whole into statements about the average individual. Today, there is growing interest among the public in demography, as demographic transition has become the subject of political debates in Entomology is the study of insects and encompasses the biological, agricultural, and environmental sciences related to insects and their interaction with humans and other organisms. Entomologists make contributions to such diverse fields as agriculture, chemistry, biology, human and animal health, molecular science, and forensics. The study of insects serves as the basis for developments in biological and chemical pest control, pharmaceuticals, food production and storage, mapping biological diversity, robotics, and other fields of science. Professional entomologists work to detect the role of insects in the spread of disease and discover ways of protecting food crops and livestock from Human osteology is the science that deals with human skeleton recovery and interpretation. Osteological work is often aimed at the identification of the relatively recently deceased and is usually done in a legal context. This work pertains to the public forum, most often a court of law, is called forensic osteology, a division of forensic anthropology. The other two contexts in which human osteological knowledge is commonly applied are historical. The context can be ancient and purely paleontological, as for the Pliocene pre-cultural hominids of Africa. Alternatively, the context can be relatively recent, part of an archaeological record. The goal of forensic osteology often involves identification of playground, controlled setting for children's play. This institutionalized environment consists of a planned, enclosed space with play equipment that encourages children's motor development. For most of history, children merely shared public spaces such as marketplaces with adults. There was no conception of a special area dedicated to children. The invention of the playground in general is not attributed to any one person but rather is viewed as a development and combination of the ideas of many thinkers who wrote on
Spirituality is a broad concept with room for many perspectives. In general, it includes a sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves, and it typically involves a search for meaning in life. As such, it is a universal human experience, something that touches us all. People may describe a spiritual experience as sacred or transcendent or simply a deep sense of aliveness and interconnectedness. Some may find that their spiritual life is intricately linked to their association with a church, temple, mosque, or synagogue. Others may pray or find comfort in a personal relationship with God or a higher power. Still others seek meaning through their connections to nature or art. Like your sense of purpose, your personal definition of spirituality may change throughout your life, adapting to Anatomy is the oldest scientific discipline of medicine. The first documented scientific dissections on the human body are carried out as early as the 3rd century BC in Alexandria. At that time, anatomists explore anatomy through dissections of animals, primarily pigs and monkeys. Claudius Galen is the most prominent physician in ancient Greece whose conclusions are purely based on the study of animals and whose faulty theories on human anatomy dominate and influence the medical science until the Renaissance, that is, for over 1,000 years. Although anatomy is not officially banned, social authorities reject the dissection of human corpses until the 12th and even 13th century. This is why anatomical research A solar eclipse is a spectacular sight and a rare astronomical event. Each one is only visible from a limited area. An eclipse of the sun happens when the new moon moves between the sun and Earth, blocking out the sun's rays and casting a shadow on parts of Earth. The moon's shadow is not big enough to engulf the entire planet, so the shadow is always limited to When geologists talk about mud, they are referring to tiny particles that stick together when wet. Those particles have often broken down from larger rocks over time due to the forces of wind, rain, ice and snow. Fungi and microbes can break down rock and form mud, too. Before plants arrived on land, mud was around, it was just mostly sent to the seafloor by rivers. Once plants showed up, they not only held sediments in place but their roots also physically broke down rock and released chemicals that further In simple terms, the process of altering messages in a way that their meaning is hidden from an enemy or opponent who might seize them, is known as cryptography. Cryptography is the science of secret writing that brings numerous techniques to safeguard information that is present in an unreadable format. Only the designated recipients can be converted this unreadable format into the